The Meijers Committee, the European Union's constitutional watchdog. The Meijers Committee is celebrating its 25th birthday. This group of independent experts has been active for a quarter of a century, monitoring European regulation and policy making. But why is this so important? Issues like criminal law, migration, privacy, and discrimination reach beyond national borders, which is why the EU member states have gradually been working ever more closely together to regulate such issues transnationally. However, this approach also has its drawbacks. It is often difficult to understand overarching EU policy making for member states, but especially for individual citizens. Individuals can fall victim to a lack of democracy and transparency. Take the case of Aiden, for instance, who is amazed to find out that he cannot get a visa because the system contains incorrect information about him. Or Kim, who has no idea how the EU stores her personal data, nor why it is done. In 1990, when a number of EU states started to cooperate more closely in the fields of migration and criminal law within the Schengen system, Herman Meijers founded the Meijers Committee. Schengen was an important step for Europe, but it had a great democratic deficit. National parliaments had barely any say, and human rights were not exactly the primary concern. Herman Meijers thought the time was ripe to change this. A quarter century later, much has changed for the better. The European Parliament co-decides on many important matters, and the EU even has its own Charter of Fundamental Rights. But matters can always be improved, and the Meijers Committee will keep working hard to ensure they do. How does the Meijers Committee go about its work? In the area of EU decision-making, the three most important institutions are the European Commission, the Council of the European Union, or Council of Ministers, and the European Parliament. The European Commission initiates legislative proposals. Most of the time, the European Parliament and the Council of the European Union then propose ideas to amend the Commission's proposal. The rounds of negotiations in which the Commission, the Council and the Parliament are represented are called trialogues. If the Parliament and the Council do not come to an agreement in the first reading, they continue negotiating in a second round. A proposal can only be approved when the Parliament and the Council agree. Within this process, the Dutch Parliament can also exercise influence. Before a certain legislative proposal is discussed in the Council, the Dutch government discusses it with the House of Representatives. In some areas, it is actually mandatory that both the House of Representatives and the Senate must agree to a proposal before the Dutch representative can negotiate the proposal in the Council of Ministers. The Meijers Committee tries to ensure that this process is conducted in a transparent and democratic way by sending its advice at an early stage to the Dutch Parliament, which can influence the triangle through the Council. The Meijers Committee also advises the European Parliament, the members of which are elected directly by European citizens. By putting pressure on policymakers, the Meijers Committee aims to ensure that human rights are respected and that European decision-making is compliant with democratic principles and the rule of law. By providing critical advice at an early stage, and thanks to an extensive network in Brussels and The Hague, the Meijers Committee's comments are raised at the highest political levels. As a constitutional watchdog for the past 25 years, the Meijers Committee has contributed to the quality of European legislation in the fields of civil rights, justice and home affairs. But, in the interest of Aiden, Kim and many others, it will remain necessary to continue our vigilance of European decision-making. On to the next 25 years.